So as many of you might know, Matthias, the man behind Warhammer Armies Project, was contacted by Games Workshop's legal team. And I kind of want to summarize what all this is about, and I also want to give my own thoughts on the matter. So I'm going to start very briefly for those who doesn't know what Warhammer Armies Project is. It is a fan-made version of the official Games Workshop game Warhammer Fantasy Battles. And since Games Workshop officially discontinued the official Warhammer Fantasy game, fan-made versions of the game such as Warhammer Armies Project and 9th edition have been gaining popularity. And as of right now, these like fan-made or non-official versions of the game might actually be more played and more popular than the final official release of the game, which was 8th edition. And I myself play both Warhammer Armies Project and 8th edition, and the move that Games Workshop has made here will negatively affect a game that I love. Let's start by taking a look at the announcement that Matthias made. And now you have the announcement on the screen in front of you. I'm not going to read all of it, but I'm going to focus on some parts. I was finally contacted by GV, who requests that I remove all GV art and text from the army books that infringes on their IP. I have always known that this day might come, and with the announcement of the old world, it was more likely to happen. What this means for WAP is that I will no longer be able to keep making full army books with art and text, and would just be limited to only using their unit/character names for the rule set in an army list format. This also means I will have to rewrite the whole rulebook to not use Games Workshop original writing, as well as redesigning the cover. There are hardly any army books that does not contain some amount of GV lore, so this means the unofficial armies need to go too. This does not necessarily mean the death of WAP, but only that I will have to continue in a much more limited form in the future. It's been a good run at least, and I hope it's brought much enjoyment out of it. It definitely has, Matthias. Warhammer Armies Project is a great addition to the wargaming scene, and for people who love square bases and Warhammer Fantasy Battles, Warhammer Armies Project is simply amazing. You've done such a great job with this, and it's really sad to see it end this way. And I want to show a clip from a video we made 7 months ago where we were talking about this exact situation.
Some people like us, we play both 9th, like WAP, and we also play 8th edition. But the people who run the 9th edition community and the people who play 9th edition have helped keep this game alive during the hiatus or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, and even expand upon it. I think that the Warhammer Armies Project is really awesome.
One fear that I have is that they're gonna get the big banhammer when the new world.
Because please don't do that.
Yeah, because they've used like the similar like army books, the same designs, and they've used artwork and all that. And I understand that is a problem copyright wise, but it is also because of them and that community that we are gonna get an old world finally, and just destroying all that work with a copyright cease and desist would be really sad, because there's so much work gone into that.
That was one video where we made a wish list about everything we wanted to see from the release of the old world. And one of those wishes was to protect the fan-made systems from exactly what is happening here today. And before discussing this further, I think that we should take a look at the actual letter that Matthias was sent from Games Workshop. So you can see the letter on the screen before you right now. And they start the letter by saying, "We're getting in touch today because your Warhammer Armies series of documents has been reported to us for infringing Games Workshop intellectual property rights. We appreciate how enthusiastic you are about the hobby, and so we will explain the issue further so that we can work together to better orient the document with our intellectual property guidelines with minimal disruption to your work. Games Workshop hold exclusive rights to reproduce copies of our creations. This covers our miniatures, artworks, books, logos, website images and text. It not only covers exact copies, but also anything which copies a significant part, typically the most important and unique features." And in the middle of the letter here, they explain how they interpret the copyright. And they say that individuals may write their own stories, hobby books and magazines based on our characters and setting, but these must 1. Not include text, artwork or imagery copied from any official Games Workshop material, and make clear that they are unofficial without using any Games Workshop logos, and include the word unofficial prominently on the front cover. And I guess that's kind of the important part of the document, and they end it with kind regards, Games Workshop legal team. And for those of you that want to know a bit more, want to read the whole statement and then the entire legal letter, you should join the Warhammer Armies Project Discord, where you can find both the statement from Matthias and also a link to the legal letter from Games Workshop. But let's talk about all of that, shall we? And first of all, the letter that Games Workshop sent was less restricted than I thought it would be. It basically only covered the text, the imagery, the artwork. And I guess in terms of like a book, that is a large part of it. If you've seen any of the army books, they are packed filled with lore and pictures, and basically only like the last half, maybe 33% of the book is actual rules, and under each of the, or like in conjunction with all of the rules for every model, you also have some lore. But they don't seem to be cracking down on the actual like rule systems and the fact that Warhammer Armies Project exists. It's more like the artwork and the lore and the text behind it. And that is a good thing, because that means that the rules, the actual rule set for Warhammer Armies Project can still be released and the game can still be played. The only problem is that you cannot use any lore or text artwork that is official Games Workshop stuff. And if you look at it objectively, I can't see any reason why Games Workshop shouldn't have the legal right to demand this. It's a very reasonable legal demand. They do own the copyright for these works, and from a legal standpoint, I don't think they're doing anything wrong. But the timing of it seems a little bit odd. If you look back a few years when Games Workshop released Warhammer Plus, their like streaming service, before that went live, they also changed like their IP guidelines, which made it a lot harder for like these fan animators and stuff to do what they were doing. And they kind of cracked down a little bit on the fan animators that were making money out of their IP. And I guess this is kind of similar, because now we're getting closer to the release of the old world, and as we're getting closer, Games Workshop gets more protective of their IPs, because now Warhammer Armies Project might actually compete with an official Games Workshop product. And of course they don't like that, so now they send this letter. And in a way that kind of makes sense, but it also doesn't, because the community that right now is playing Warhammer Armies Project is a large part of the community that is very excited for the old world to be released, and cracking down right now on Warhammer Armies Project is probably gonna piss a few fans off, to be honest. And also, Warhammer Armies Project doesn't sell a product, they don't sell a rule set, they don't sell any models. I don't see how they're like actually competing with anything that Games Workshop does. As long as the game that Games Workshop releases is good, a large part of the players of Warhammer Armies Project is probably going to move over and start playing the old world instead. So it doesn't actually feel like Warhammer Armies Project is competing with anything here. And I have to say that the timing of things really does bother me. Because we can all agree, right, that there is no way that Games Workshop was not aware of Warhammer Armies Project before yesterday. They have known about Warhammer Armies Project for years. So why did they crack down now when they didn't before? Because the old world was announced 3.5 years ago. And my question is, why didn't Games Workshop crack down on Warhammer Armies Project then? And it seems reasonable to me that if they were going to release a new iteration of Warhammer Fantasy Battles and they didn't want any competing actors out there, like Warhammer Armies Project for example, they should have cracked down on that already back then. But for some reason they let it go on for quite long. And now it seems like we're getting quite close to the release of Old World, and now they crack down on it. And I guess you have a few options here. Option one is that Games Workshop saw what Matthias was doing, but they didn't think that the copyright infringement he was doing at the time was a problem, because they didn't have a competing product, and decided that yeah, he can keep doing that up until the release. It's no problem. We won't crack down on it until we absolutely have to. Another option that is a bit more dark or sinister is the fact that Warhammer Armies Project is a gateway to the old world. Like most of the players that play 8th edition, 9th edition and Warhammer Armies Project are probably quite excited for the old world. And most of the players of those game systems are probably gonna try out the old world. And therefore, keeping Warhammer Armies Project alive for as long as possible is good. Because the more players that play these like fan-made versions, the more players Games Workshop have that they can afterward like sluice into the old world. So they basically keep Warhammer Armies Project alive for as long as possible as a business decision to be able to get more customers over to the old world. And of course this is all speculation, I have no idea why they actually did this, but the timing seems a bit off. And another point as well is like, if I personally started a project such as Warhammer Armies Project, like a fan-made rule systems for Warhammer, I would like Games Workshop to crack down on that as soon as possible, if you know what I mean. I don't want to spend like weeks, months, years, and then they finally crack down on what I've done. Because then I spend a lot of time making something. And I would feel better if they just cracked down on it right away, instead of letting me do it. Because they were definitely aware of Warhammer Armies Project since before, and why they haven't cracked down on it before now, I'm not really sure. And as I was getting ready to release this video, Matthias released a new post on the Warhammer Armies website. And the statement he released here is very similar to the statement he originally released on the Discord. However, it is a bit more extensive. Here he explains that Games Workshop has been very polite throughout the whole ordeal. They haven't been like threatening or anything. And he also says that he holds no hard feelings towards Games Workshop for making this decision. And he also explains that 13 years ago when he began the Warhammer Armies Project, he was a student and had a lot more free time. And he's now a married man with a full-time job. And he doesn't have as much free time to work on the Warhammer Armies Project as he did before. And therefore he doesn't want to make any promises about the future of Warhammer Armies Project. And I have to agree with him. From my perspective at least, it seems like Games Workshop has been very, very reasonable throughout this whole ordeal. But that doesn't make it any less sad that this is happening, and I still think that it is unnecessary. I don't see how Warhammer Armies Project existing in its current format is a problem for Games Workshop. I just don't see it. But to kind of summarize things, I think it's really sad that Games Workshop is cracking down on this. I don't see that Warhammer Armies Project is a competing product to the old world, since they don't sell anything, and I think basically all of the players of Warhammer Armies Project will probably try the old world, and I think most of the players of Warhammer Armies Project also buys models from Games Workshop. I see Warhammer Armies Project more like a gateway to the old world than actual competition to the old world. And I also think that doing this will anger some people in the community, so I don't really see that they have a good reason to crack down on Warhammer Armies Project. But I also think that they're definitely within their legal rights to do this. This is not like a legality problem. I don't really understand it as a business decision. It doesn't really make sense to me. And the timing of this decision is also a bit off to me. Why do it now? Why didn't you do it before? Like, that also doesn't make sense. But I'm also really happy that they decided to only crack down on like the artwork and the text and stuff like that, and didn't touch upon the rules. And I also think that the rules themselves is probably quite a bit harder for Games Workshop to actually copyright, but it definitely makes me really happy that they didn't touch upon the rules at all. So that means that Matthias will still be able to release the rules for Warhammer Armies Project, and the game is not dead. It just means that in the future the rule books and all the other stuff will have to be released without any of the official Games Workshop stuff. And I do understand that this is a massive undertaking for Matthias to rewrite all the army books, to rewrite the rule books and remove everything that is official Games Workshop. That is a massive undertaking. But maybe he could get some help from the community in doing that. And I want to end with saying this once again. Matthias and all the other people behind Warhammer Armies Project, you've done amazing work. Like, Warhammer Armies Project is so good. I can't imagine how much work you've actually put into this. It must be thousands of hours. And it is a massive contribution to the fantasy community. But that's all for this video. See you next time. Bye.